All right, good morning. Welcome to Cosmic Compass. Thank you for being here. We are going to start with some breathing, and you don't have to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open and just bring your gaze inward, or you can close your eyes, whichever feels good. I like to close my eyes. I enjoy it. So, um, gives me a sense of groundedness to go fully inwards. So as we begin this circle today in this cosmic compass community. We're joined by many people who watch this on YouTube. So thank you for helping me create the circle here and bringing that energy. And then thank you to all the people who are watching later. So if you would like to join me, we're going to just drop inwards, close the eyes, or not, but dropping your awareness down into your body and breathing into the belly. Expanding the belly. And then exhaling. And then again, breathing and expanding the belly. And when you're ready, exhaling. Sending your roots down into the earth and breathing in up through the soles of the feet and expanding the belly. And then exhaling. Again, feeling that energy from the earth gently and easily rising as you breathe in, feeling that arising through the soles of your feet, moving up, expanding your belly as you breathe. And exhaling when you're ready. If you want to stretch a little, you do that with your eyes open or eyes closed, and then come back into this space. And thank you for setting that circle. So wonderful to have you all here. And we are going to pull some cards for the week. It's a big week. Still got a lot of things going on. Somebody asked me yesterday, today, there's something going on. Why is it so intense? Well, it is going to be an intense year. And remember, in a good way, this is something to remember in a good way, that these intensities, yeah, they bring a lot to the surface, but they also allow us to see where we can focus some healing energy, some evolutionary energy of learning, growth. But yeah, wow, the intensities. I mean, I will say, even I'm kind of surprised at how much there is. But I always knew 2025, we need to flow with the changes, which is why, I entitled this like, how are we going to flow through all these changes? Because next year really begins that shifting in earnest. Like this is the preview year in a lot of ways. But preview in what way? Preview so that we can shift or move out of the way if we feel like we need to, or preview in a sense of, oh, I want to go that direction. I'm probably don't want to go that direction anymore. So there's a shift that wants to happen. Um, yeah, I would say preview not in the way of like, an oracle saying this is going to happen next year. No, it's more like this is a prep year. Maybe prep is a better word, a preparing year, right? Letting us get to that next level for ourselves. And honestly, I mean, I have to say for myself, there's been a lot of intensity, and I know it's not over. I mean, I know there's more coming. So, how can I increase my capacity for healing energy to flow? How can I increase my capacity to receive what I need when I need it? I've noticed with the Mercury retrograde and Neptune retrograde and some of the other retrogrades that there are blocks that I can feel getting in my way. They're my blocks. They're not an external block. They're an internal um, old story. That's some old, like really old stories. Like, oh, And I think I mentioned this, maybe I mentioned this last week, but oh no, maybe not, because I just did it on Saturday. Oh, new story. So as I'm unpacking boxes, and you got to admit, like the retrogrades are a great time to unpack figuratively, literally unpack. As I'm unpacking boxes this weekend, I find stuff that I shoved where somewhere in a box from 2012, which was a really intense year. And I was like, oh, let's look through this box. Notes from people from, yeah, when I left here. So that from 2011 and 2012, it was really intense. And I was like, okay, so you found this box, you found this stuff. What are you being shown? What are you seeing? And it was really good, like to look back, but also unpack and let go. So that's the last piece of that, right? Like, I mean, why am I holding on to this? And really ask a question, will this serve me? Now, there are certain things I know for some of you who are parents, you're not going to let go of things. I mean, for those of us that are animal parents, I mean, upstairs, I still have Sheena's cat toys. I'm not letting them go right now. They'll probably have to go when I go. You know what I'm saying? That they're not going anywhere. So yeah, some things we let go of, some things we don't. So I have a lot of empathy for people that are sentimental. Tauruses are sentimental. So there you go. I try to be practical. Okay. Enough about me. Let's get into this energy. There's an intensity to this time, but it serves a purpose. That's really what I was trying to say 10 minutes ago. Okay, so we're gonna pull some cards for the week. Hmm. I- We put, okay, I swear to you, I have other groups. This card never comes with the other groups ever. This group, this card happens every what, 3 weeks? All right. When pigs fly, it says. Now, there's a lot of ways to interpret this card, Page of Cups. Um, I'm going to let you be with this. This is a fascinating image. Um, yeah, it's a fascinating image. So there's, I mean, I was just in, the cosmic circle met last hour. So some of this extends from that conversation about the heart, the soul, the listening, the intuition, the emotion, right? Listen to your heart. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Just that's it. Next card. Swear we just pulled this last week. Did we pull this one last week? I think we did. I feel like we did. Okay. The world. I feel like we pulled this one last week. Beautiful card. Good. Oh, yeah, because I was talking about the platonic solids. So yeah, we pulled this one last week too. These cards have been used a lot, by the way, since last week. So okay. What is this trying to tell us? And the world card is known as the universe in some other decks. So yeah, just let that be with you. Part of your narrative for yourself this week. And then our last card we pulled 2 weeks ago. This deck has been used so much. So these are messages that I guess we are going to be taking very seriously. 9 of Wands. Now, I don't think this is a real stretch to just kind of say, wow, hey, I've been talking about preparing for a journey, or we're in the journey, and how am I prepared? One or the other. Wands are very much about life force energy, creativity. There's a lot of the way you could work with this story. So, yeah, just again, how do you see this card for yourself? What is this showing you? So when I look at the cards for the week, I'm seeing some review of emotion and vision and heart, right? Sorry, get that more in. There we go. There we go. I'm seeing that connection to community or the world or the universe. There we go. Yeah. Again, that portal, walking through that portal. We'll have one of those next week on 8/8. How am I moving through that portal of energy? And then I don't know, it has, there are meanings that the nine of wands in some of my decks is really different than this. And so I guess what I would say with this is there's a lot of energy that wants to move. That's how I'll say that with this card. There's a lot of energy that wants to move, needs to move. Okay. So those are our cards for the week. And now we're going to talk about just something. It's just a little something. We aren't going to be here forever. I'm going to talk for like 15 minutes about this. I've been getting a lot of emails saying, I asked ChatGPT about fill in the blank, and it told me I have Cancer rising. You told me I have X rising. You told me I have Libra rising. Yeah, I did, because you do. So this has happened over and over. So finally, I went into ChatGPT. I wish I hadn't done this. So don't do this if you haven't already done it. I put in my birth data. I put my birth date, time, and place. Kind of wish I hadn't done that, but they say it's confidential, but I don't believe them. Anyway, but I did it because I wanted to learn Venus and Gemini. Like, I could do this. It got it all wrong. I think it knew I was a Taurus. I think that was the only thing it knew. But it had my moon in Pisces and my rising sign something else. And I mean, I tried. I tried. I'm like, did I put it wrong? Did I put the wrong info? How did it get this information? I'm like, well, you're wrong. You're just wrong. So I talked to my favorite information person, that would be David, and he explained that astro data, so like when I use astro.com to do your charts, that's all behind a paywall. So ChatGPT, the way it's designed right now, it can only get to sites that are free and or not behind a password protected website. So even the ephemerises that are online now, which is how we determine where the planets are and when, those are all behind password protected sites. And I pay for mine, so I have lots of information that I pay for membership wise. So it just doesn't have access until it does, and I don't even know when it will ever know what can be known, but that's okay. I'm not a big fan. You can tell. You can see my tone. I'm like being really like, bleh. But I think that having an opportunity to work with it was interesting. So I want to share a little bit about what I did afterwards. So I, ran a few other birth dates. They were all wrong. They had the rising sign wrong, the moon wrong. They always had the sun sign correct. Okay. So then what I decided to do, and again, I decided to do a little astrocartography with the ChatGPT. I decided to ask, and I kind of narrowed it down. I didn't say best places in the world to live. I just said best places on the West Coast. of the United States. And then I put in my own data. I put in my own sun sign, my moon, my rising, and my north node. I didn't put in my Venus. I didn't put any of that in. I just said, with these elements, where is the best place for me to live on the West Coast of the United States? I'll give you, I mean, this is, you know what I'm going to say. It's where I live right now, is what it said is the best place, which is great. Like, if that's true, fabulous for me. But I thought, okay, it does, because it knows where I live. So then I had to test it on other people. And finally, I thought, well, maybe if I open it up and just say best place in the world, it turns out that every time I put in, without saying who it was, obviously, but I put in birth data, where I live would pop up every time. So I'm skeptical. It knows where I live. Okay. Now, what I haven't tried, and I will tell you that my astute partner has been very using it very well in other ways, which I won't go into right now, but inputting the astrology yourself. And, you have to do some of it yourself. There's all kinds of things that you can do with it that make sense. So I do have a question here. I don't think they're using Vedic calculations, but you know what? That's an excellent question. It still doesn't work, because if they were, then I wouldn't be a Taurus, because in Vedic astrology, I'm an Aries. So that's how, yeah, I don't think so. I think it just doesn't, which is fine. It doesn't, I will have a job for as long as it doesn't have a lot of information. So I'm fine with that. But in truth, you can use it as if you put in your own basic information. So I finally found someone that I gave me permission to use just not their birth data, but their rising sun and north node, and asked about places to live in the world. So I went beyond the West Coast. I thought, well, and I went beyond the United States even. And that was interesting. And I recommend that as a fun little thing for you to do if you want to look at the best place in the world for you to live. The first place that came up wasn't up, and this person's traveled a lot, wasn't a place that she would want to live. But the third place on a list of 5, she's like, I'm going to be learning that language now. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, for once, if I entered the United States, it came up with where I lived anytime I entered the US, which, I mean, I was skeptical. But once I expanded it to the world, then I got that person also, though, on that list did show up where I live. So even in that list of 5 from the world, my town showed up. I know that cannot be. I mean, no offense. I love my town, but yeah, my town's no. No, but I think it's only saying that because it's my computer with my ISP address in my town. That's why I think it's doing that. I think I think if you put in your data and asked about the West Coast of the US, well, actually, maybe you could do that for me later. We'll do it together. And you just but not on my computer and not from this town. I would be very curious what happens. Anyway, my point is a couple of things. It's helpful to know how to use a tool. And I'd like for AI to still stay a tool, right? Not become any greater than that. I don't want to dismiss it, because it has been interesting for people in my life to use it, and they are getting a lot of really helpful results, as long as you know how to ask the question and or input data that will help it get an answer that is is it it knows us after a while. If you use it long enough, it knows us, right? So you just have to be very careful about how you input. Yeah, I think it does try to win you over. that's exactly what I was trying to say. Like it knows you and it wants to stay connected to you somehow. But that being said, I have seen some really good uses of it. And using astrology with it can be super helpful. Um, but I think you've got to do it with caution, and you've got to do it with mindfulness, and you've got to do it with knowing yourself really well. That's cool. Free courses in Nova Scotia. Well, good. I think free courses is a good idea. I do. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share this with you because I kept getting, I mean, literally email after email. You told me this. I'm like, oh gosh, let me recheck your data. But no. The other thing I've noticed of late is, and we've talked about this in other circles before. If I need a format for something, in the old days, there were books that we would look at. What's the format for this type of letter? What's the format for this? You can go in and ask it to, how do I write a letter that's going to deal with this topic? And how do I keep the tone professional or whatever, right? It will give you a format for that. I like that. And I think I told you all, and that has nothing to do with astrology, but I just want to say I don't want to be super dismissive of something that can be helpful. And I think I told you all, but I'll tell you again, it has nothing to do with astrology, except I did bring in astrology. Um, One day it was winter. That's all I have to say. It was winter. It was winter. And I asked it, how do I write a Hallmark movie? Yeah, I'm just saying it was winter. So it outlined the Hallmark movie for me, scene by scene, exactly how to do it. So then I was like, oh. So I started asking questions about different types of people and if those could be main characters. And I finally I hit a point where ChatGPT said, Hallmark is not progressive enough to have those people as main characters. I'm like, okay. And then I said, what about astrologers? Can you have an astrologer as a main character? No, you cannot have an astrologer as a main character, apparently. They could be a side character. They cannot be a main character. Okay. Anyway, it was very interesting. And I kind of I have that somewhere. It was great. If I ever want to write a Hallmark movie, and actually I do have a new friend who's a screenwriter, and we had a good laugh about it, but she said it was actually pretty accurate. So, there is a whole movement in the arts community and in the writing community. And you know this about colleges too, right? How do we move forward in this world with this technology? And how do we protect writers? How do we protect artists? How do we have students write their own papers? There's a lot of, as a former teacher, that, I used to have finals exams where they would come in and they had to write the whole essay in class. So there's ways to do it. I mean, there's ways to do it. That being said, what is this about astrologically? Well, there's plenty of places we can look at for this, but I'm going to share a couple things that I've been seeing. First of all, Pluto and Aquarius. Hello, Pluto and Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign that takes us into the future. Aquarius is the sign that isn't the only one that works with AI in terms of how we interpret, but it is one of the signs that understands technology and they invent it. And not everybody who's an Aquarius is going to invent technology, but you will find many people either with a strong Uranus component in their chart or a strong Aquarius component in their chart, or a strong 11th house or some combination. They're inventors, and they may not invent something tangible. They might invent a way of serving people in a new way. There's all kinds of ways that Uranian energy shows up, or Aquarius energy shows up. So with Pluto, you've got Pluto saying, let's dig under the surface here. Is this what we want? So this whole AI thing, or, is this what we want? And you all probably, there's been a couple of articles, whether it was in New York Times or some other places, about some really serious and very triggering things that ChatGPT has been a part of, especially with young people. Um, yeah, as a parent, these are things that you get to deal with now, right? So Pluto's like, okay, how do you want to deal with that? How do you want to work with this? Let's get underneath it. What needs to change? What needs to transform? What needs to evolve? Now, those are really open-ended questions. There's no particular answer that I'm saying exists. I'm just saying that's what the energy is. It's asking us to look. And then with Uranus moving into Gemini, this is where I think this whole idea of learning is what we're learning when we enter in and question, is it accurate? Remember, Gemini is truth. Uranus is the unexpected or the awakener. So to awaken to our truth is a really beautiful way to see Uranus and Gemini. And remember, unless you were over you think about how old you'd have to be. Let's say over the age of 87, you've never experienced Uranus and Gemini before. So for most of us, this is the first time. Awakening to our truth and looking at the truth. And because Uranus has that technological component and that inventive component and progressive component and helpful component, is it helpful? How is it helpful? When is it helpful? When are we actually learning something that's accurate? And how do we double check it? How do we double check it? Now, I am all for learning new things. In the last hour, we talked about how skunks are now have their own species category. Pretty cool. That's new. I'm all about learning new things and new things being invented to help us. But when we're looking at information, how do we know it's accurate? So these are the questions that we get to have during this era that we are in. This era is going to last a long time. So we have plenty of time to deepen into our own discernment process, which is Saturn, by the way. If you're going to look for the way we want to look at the planets, Saturn is what gives us discernment. Well, I mean, I think anything can give us discernment, but Saturn really represents that for us. So how are we going to discern what is correct? How are we going to discern what is best for us? How are we going to discern what is helpful? These are our questions of our era. And I suppose one could make a case that it's pretty exciting to be at this point. Sometimes I find it exhausting, to be honest. There's so much to sort through. Digital detox days. I hope I took one recently. It's been a long time. I used to do, okay, back in the days when there wasn't that much digital anything, I used to take digital detox days away from the phone and the computer. I think I need to go back to doing that. It's really helpful. No phone, no computer, nothing for at least 24 hours. If you can get away with it for longer, better. But I think that is super helpful. And for those of you that spend a lot of time outside in nature, you already know this. You're already tuned in. You've got this. For those of you that spend time with animals, they're like, digital? Yeah, we are digital detox. They're like, just hang out with us. We'll help you. Yeah. Plants, same, you know. So we're in an interesting time. And so I guess this was me just wanting to share all this with you today. Nothing earth shattering, but I think supportive, hopefully, with the energies that are present and current in this time, and something for all of us to think about. How do you want to use technology? How are you going to discern? How is it best used? I think again, coming into, okay, there's a lot. I have to think about this through. So Uranus into Gemini. Many of us were born with your Uranus doesn't stay too long in a sign, maybe 7 or 8 years. So a lot of us are born with Uranus in Virgo, but a lot of us are also born with Uranus in Leo and then beyond Virgo, so Libra and Scorpio. Um, but looking at where Uranus is in your chart and how you are working with the energy of awakening and how you're working with the energy of new and technology and how you're working with inventive energy. Look at where, or I can look at it for you, like where is it in your chart and how am I supposed to utilize this? Oh, Uranus also has a lot to do with the unusual, uh, stepping outside the box, being outside the box. So there's more than just technology attached to that. But I think it's really helpful to look at um, where all of this falls in our own individual charts as we move into the next era. So Uranus will be in Gemini I think just until November. Then it drops back into Taurus for a little bit. Then it moves fully in April, I believe, of next year into Gemini for, I think, 7 years. So we'll have a lot to talk about for 7 years and we'll see what happens. I agree. We had a comment here. Thank you about taking retreats or time away. Very important in this era. Probably even, and they've always been important, but even maybe more so in this era. Um, I know people have said to me that they think I'm attached to my phone. Um, yeah, I thought about this actually last night. I was like, well, back in the days when we all had landlines, it didn't matter if our phone was nearby or, our cell phone. Because there was a time, believe it or not, if you're young enough, you may not remember this, but there was a time when we had landlines and cell phones at the same time. Some people still do. Um, but I noticed that I carry my phone probably as a source of like, if something happens, I have my phone nearby kind of feeling. It's not like I really want to be on my phone. It's just there. And I've been thinking a lot about that, like, is that really, does that really work for me? So I don't know. The answers are unclear, but that's part of the journey. We're on a journey together, with this technology. And for those of you that, okay, thank you for joining. I was going to say, for those of you that joined late, um, you can go back and listen to my little musings about ChatGPT and astrology. But again, I guess how I'll wrap up is this is our new era. We're working with this energy. We're navigating it. We're discerning. There's a lot of good that comes from inventing. I mean, some of us wouldn't be here without it, period. So, that, oh gosh. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. But yeah, I think again, we don't want to take the inventiveness out of who we are, but we have to add in the discernment. And Pluto and Uranus and Saturn are giving us lots of opportunities to weave stuff together. For many people in my generation, so people born in the 60s, a lot of the people of this generation have invented amazing things that have helped people, biomedical devices. I wouldn't be here with you if someone hadn't created a personal computer. We wouldn't be doing this. So I'm very grateful. So it is important for me to say I'm grateful for that. So again, discernment and a deeper understanding and an awareness of what is the truth. Okay, so remember, Uranus into Gemini. Is this the truth? How is this the truth? How are we awakening to the truth? So just again, something to consider. All right. A light topic for your Monday morning, people. Something to take with you into the week. Mwah! All right. Have a great week, everybody. I will post these cards soon. And in the meantime, listening, let Mercury take you into a good listening place and spend some time listening to your intuition. See what happens. Okay. Mwah. See you all later. Bye.